Good morning, everybody. Welcome to I guess this may be the 61st annual meeting of the Peacock App Homeowners Association. Be that as it may, it is the 2024 annual meeting where you will have a chance to meet some of the community members, some of the board members, some of the committee members, and we'll give you an update about what's happening and what we're looking to do moving forward and how you can be a part of our great neighborhood. So, with that, I will introduce Kimberly Arnold, who is in charge of piloting our slides today. And I see a few more people just hopping on. So quickly, what we're going to cover this morning, we'll do a little welcome. I'll introduce you to the board members, and we'll talk about community involvement. We'll take a look at neighborhood security. We'll introduce you to some of the neighborhood coalitions outside the HOA you may want to be aware of or participate in. Briefly cover architectural review, suggestions and rules. Larry Andow, our treasurer, will give a financial update. We'll talk a little bit about the community program called CARES, which brings us together in time of a disaster and is excellent at getting everyone ready for disaster prep. Touch on our new pending CC&Rs, and then how to stay in communication with the board and with each other. So that's a little bit of an overview of what we want to cover today. We'll try to move through rapidly since we want to give as much information as possible. And so the next slide should give us the photos there we go, of our board members. From top left to bottom right that's Dariush Davidi, business owner here in town. He sits on the police oversight committee, connecting us with law enforcement and city hall. Next up, Kimberly Arnold. Then Larry Andow, that's me in the black sweater. Then on the bottom, Jesse Hanley, Pam Oliva, Hero, John Harrison, Care Fellows, and in the lower right is Ken Olshansky. So it's a 2-year term. It's an all volunteer board, pretty entertaining group of people. It's not a tremendous amount of work. We just try to solve issues before they become problems and keep things looking good and moving forward. So we do have room on the board for another member. And if you'd like to consider that position, please reach out to one or any of us after the meeting. And that's that. There's my part. And I'd like to introduce Care Fellows.
Yeah, so I'm going to kick us off with some of our community involvement. I'm part of the Welcome Committee and includes some board members as well as non-board member volunteers. The Welcome Committee was developed with the sole purpose to have a meaningful and purposeful effort to welcome new members of the community. So everyone in the HOA has been a new member of our community at one point, whether it was 50 years ago or 4 years ago. So in an effort to promote community and to meet neighbors, we developed the Welcome Committee. As part of this, all homeowners receive a welcome gift. This has included the customized cutting board with the Peacock Gap neighborhood logo, a car magnet that we rolled out this year, and all of the new neighbors are welcomed in person by a volunteer. So it's another part of it is going to them so that you can answer questions and be available to them. Since 2021, we've welcomed over 80 new homeowners. In 2024, there's been 16. So we average around 20, 25, somewhere in the 15 to 25 per year. If anyone would like to be involved, sometimes it's just as simple as delivering the bags to the new homeowners to help with that connection. We're always looking for new volunteers to spread out over the neighborhood. And if anybody would like a car magnet, we have extras, even if you're not new to the community.
Excellent. Thank you. John Harrison was instrumental, continues to be instrumental in the revitalization of Peacock Gap Park. And John, tell us a little bit about the social and city plans, if you would.
Yeah, sure. So in June, we hosted with the city an ice cream social. It was very well received by the community. About over 110 people attended. The city showed off its plans, various alternatives for the upgrade of the playground equipment in Peacock Park. And, there was ice cream served. It was delicious and got a lot of good reviews. Since then, we've stayed in touch with the city and they made a lot of progress. They finished the design this fall. And the next slide, if you would, Emily, the plans have been completed, and they are actually going to City Council this coming Monday to get approval to award a contract to Rapid Grading Services. That will be the construction contractor, and the plans are online on the city's website if you're interested. They're planning to start construction in mid-January, and they expect to be completed by early summer. So the next slide, there are a couple slides that show the playground layout. It's fundamentally a similar layout to what's there now, but just replacing and upgrading the surfaces and the playground equipment. These are sort of representational. They're not the exact equipment that would be supplied, but these are the types of equipment that would be installed. So anyway, we'll continue to monitor this and coordinate with the city. But I think it's good news. They're finally getting to the city's finally getting around to upgrading this park.
Great. And there's been tons of feedback from the community, both online and in person. And this has been a great experience so far. The city is really paying attention. So thank you, John. And speaking of fun playthings, Jesse Hanley was instrumental in organizing, as everybody was, the Halloween get together or the holiday fall get together.
Yeah, that's right. About once a year, we do a relatively large gathering for our community. This year, we did it in the fall, and it was close enough to the Halloween that we focused a lot on making sure that the kids were able to enjoy some of the fun holiday stuff that we had. So we had a kids table where they could decorate pumpkins. We had food, with wine generously donated by one of our residents, and we do these every year. We love to see that the attendance keeps getting a little bit better every year, and so our hope is that it's a great way to meet and enjoy your neighbors and know faces when you see them around the community. So we'll continue to do this every year. It was fun, and I think we might have gotten to a place where we've got the food down pat. And each year we try to add something new to make it a little bit more fun and exciting. So we look forward to seeing you next year as well.
Awesome. It's some really terrific parties and a great way to bringing the community together, as is the brainchild of Care and Jesse and others, but the first annual Halloween decorating contest. Care, tell us a little bit about these neighborhood contests.
Yeah, so this has been on our list of things that we've wanted to do as part of our community involvement for a while. A lot of our homeowners decorate extensively, and so we wanted to have a program to recognize them and to build community. This was our first year doing it. We had three homes that we recognized for their decorations. And this is something that we see to grow every year in terms of participation and recognition. It's just an important way to reach out and to build community. And on the next slide, we'll very soon be having 5 homes that we highlight for holiday decorations. If you've driven around the neighborhood, Peacock and Riviera and up the side streets, you'll see a lot of our neighbors are decorating. It's very beautiful. It entices people to be out and about. And so we are all for that. And we'll be having 5 homeowners recognized as part of the holiday decorating in the next week or so.
Sounds great. I love it.
Can anyone ask a question? Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Are you going to address what's going to be adjacent to that playground, the tents that are, there's an ordinance to put the tents in across from the playground?
There is not exactly an ordinance to put tents in across the playground, but we'll
Yes,
dig
there
into
is.
some question. We'll dig into some questions. Let's just get through the presentation, and then we'll work through all the questions everybody has, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay, but there are tents. There is an ordinance that that went past
Great.
council on October 3rd.
Okay. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. I know that is a concern of
The big
people, the
fire
rumors
concern
going.
for me, the fire concern. Those people are going to be up in the hills smoking.
Exactly. We'll get to that in just a second because it is a concern for people, and there are some rumors going around, and we'll address that.
This isn't a rumor, and it's frightening. And
as I
if
said,
China Camp goes up in fire, we're fried meat. We can't get out. We won't be able to get out.
That's right. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So let's talk, though. It's a good transition to
Mike, before we continue, I just want to ask anyone who's not speaking to mute their line because we're getting a lot of feedback. Also, if you're not currently
right. Hello. Could anyone who's I'll just okay, there we go.
We're not currently speaking. Yeah. And that's not that we don't want to hear from you, but we just can't take the background noise and get the recording at the same time. So thank you.
Right. So if please do feel free to raise your hand and I'll unmute you when we get to the questions. And just a quick update on the medians. This has been a major project of the HOA over the last 2 years. We've completely redone the 9 medians within the development. Did some really deep soil remediation, irrigation, new plants. Eric Rayner's taken a really excellent interest, if you will. I mean, he's done a great job for the budget we had. He continues to care for, we have them in here twice a month, caring for the medians and the entrance ways along Points of Pedro Road at Riviera and Peacock. So it looks great when everyone's driving in. And there'll be a plant refresh in the spring. We'll be adding more plants and replacing the few that had a tough winter. So that is the update on the medians. I think we've had great feedback, so I appreciate everybody in enjoying those. And then neighborhood security. Remy, you're going to tell us a bit about the cameras and the general state of security.
Yes. So Kara is going to speak on that. I'm speaking our representative, Dariush Davidi. He was unable to join us this morning, but he's a board member of the HOA and he holds a position in the Chamber of Commerce and also on the Police Oversight Committee or Police Commission. So he's in a unique position to help represent our interests and get access to data. So he asked for updates on a continual basis as he attends these meetings. One of the biggest initiatives this year was the addition of the license plate readers that we pass on Point San Pedro Road. So we've seen those. Our understanding is that they communicate electronically with police officers in the field as well as in headquarters. And it's in an effort to identify high-risk cars or cars that they have identified that they're trying to track. When we've asked the police department for data regarding our 427 addresses, we're told that we're the safest neighborhood in San Rafael. We've asked for detailed breakdowns over the last 5 years, and they've given us kind of a dump of the data. But we're really looking to identify trends, really comparing, year over year, if there has been a change in terms of burglaries or car break-ins or anything like that. With the reported incidents that this data does exist. We're getting it for the 427 homes, and we're looking forward to really digging into that with Dariush leading that.
Excellent. Yeah, there's just reiterating that we do live in an excellent, very safe neighborhood. Everywhere in the world there's an occasional blip, but everything's working out great. So thank you for that care. And up next is some information about our neighborhood coalitions. Ken Olshansky's been active in some of the other area organizations. Ken, can you tell us a little bit about that?
And Ken, you need to unmute your
one more unmute there, Ken.
In the bottom left corner where it says audio, you should be able to click on the little microphone.
Can you put up the next slide? As many of you know, around this area, there are multiple HOAs and different organizations that share information about security, disasters, etc. We are represented on the San Pedro Road Coalition and the Federation of San Rafael Neighborhoods. We meet periodically to share ideas and get updates. And we bring that back to the board, and any pertinent information we will share with the homeowners.
Excellent. Thank you, Ken. I think there's there are many opportunities to get involved in the future progress of our neighborhoods, and towns. So please talk to Ken if you'd like to be introduced to one of these committees. He'll do that. All right. Next up, Care Fellows talks a little bit about the ease of the architectural review process as you're making changes.
Yes, so I'm speaking on behalf of several members of the Architectural Review Committee. We're always looking for new members to join as well. Architectural review is one of the tenets of the CC&Rs, which is the covenants, conditions, and restrictions. They're all listed on the Peacock Gap website, and an effort over the last several years has really been to digitize this process so that you have access to the common topics as well as a form to submit. The restrictions are generally not very restrictive. The most important tenets are really speaking with your neighbors or those that may be affected by any change. But anytime you're considering something, you can send us a note to get our weigh in on if we think that there's anything that's going to be an issue. Common topics that we hear about are setbacks, which are generally set by San Rafael, fence heights, walls, driveways, exterior home renovations or material changes, roofing. These are things that you can see from the street that could affect one of your neighbors. All of the information as well as the form for submission is on the website. And on the next slide, we called out a couple common topics adjacent to architectural review, which includes things that we're frequently contacted for by neighbors, by members of our community. Vehicles being on the street for more than 72 hours. This is a San Rafael parking restriction. So that vehicles, you can't park trailers or park things on the street in the same spot for more than 72 consecutive hours. Trash cans should be placed on the curb the night before 6 a.m. on the day of service. Trash cans to then be out of sight from your neighbors in the street after pickup. And this is something that if you notice that a neighbor is having difficulty complying with that, reaching out and talking to them to make sure that they're aware of the days of pickup. Some people may think it's a different day or a different time to see. In general, I think the neighborhood does very well, and we don't hear a lot of complaints about this, but it is a topic that we hear several times a year from neighbors.
Great. Thank you very much. And one of the major responsibilities of the HOA board is to be good stewards of the dues that we all pay. And Larry Andow is our longtime excellent treasurer. And Larry, if you could give us a quick look at the financials, where we stand and how things are going.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Let's move to the next slide. I'll talk about what we have done as an HOA is to try to keep the dues at $130 a year. And we've done that for probably the last 5 or 10 years. And we've always tried to budget on a zero-based budget so that we're trying to make sure that we're not accumulating a lot of money, but rather focusing on what it takes to run the HOA in terms of providing services to our members, getting information out to members, and getting members involved in the community, which, as you've heard, can be San Pedro Road Coalition, on some of the city boards and advisory commissions. We want to be part of not only our own community, but the community and city of San Rafael. And so we've developed a budget, and if you want to go to the next slide, this is the balance sheet for our HOA. Excuse me. We started out with about 24,000 at the beginning of 24, and we're going to end up somewhere in the $25,000 range at the end of December. The actual of 37.7 does not reflect some significant costs that we're going to have for the Halloween party, which we have not been reimbursed for. And based on our budget, we expect, and we can go to the next slide, that we're going to end up somewhere around 30,000 at the end of next year. You can see what our proposed budget is for 25 in the very right-hand column. Excuse me. Again, we're trying to zero base our budget. Next year, we are going to be talking about, or we are going to be voting on new CC&Rs. So that's going to be an expense, probably the major expense for next year. And otherwise, our budget for 25 is going to reflect essentially the same budget that we had for 24. Very, almost no change in any of the particular columns. And I think that's it. And we can come back to this. If you have questions on any of these issues, any of these items, we can come back to it at the end of the slide presentation.
Excellent. Great. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate that very much. And then we'll have a little update on the value of CARES and where we are, the foundation laid, and the benefits in the future from Kimberly Arnold.
Thanks, Mike. You know, I took a moment today and I was thinking it was 4 years ago, December of 2020, when we had our first Zoom annual meeting that I attended, when I got inspired by work that the committee, the HOA board had done around disaster preparedness, right? And it was around that time we had done a survey in our community members around if we had a disaster, who would need help, if we had a disaster, who would help others. At that point, 25% of our homeowners said that if we had a disaster and had to evacuate, they would need help. And the good news was 75% of the respondents said they were willing to help. And I think that was kind of the impetus for creating what we call CARES. CARES stands for Community Alert, Responsible, I should say, for everyone's safety, right? It's us just coming together as a community, particularly if there was a disaster event. You know, I think we all recently got alerts about the potential tsunami after the earthquake that happened up near Eureka, right? And I know my phone started buzzing, and I think as an HOA board, we all started reaching out to each other to check in and see what people needed. So we have a whole program in place. Larry Andow was actually very instrumental. Larry and Mike both were active in this. I stepped in for a while as the committee chair. And what we did was we created what we called pods. It was a group of houses, maybe 4 to 6, up to 10 homes, where there was some homeowner who said, okay, I'm gonna help track this group of houses that's physically near me. And if we have to evacuate, we have some idea what people need, who would need support, and how we would all mobilize together if we had to evacuate. And through that work, we've actually signed up. We're estimating between 30% of homes. There's definitely been some turnover with people moving and passing on. But in any case, we have some groups of homes that are already in these pods. We have a whole process established. We have a pamphlet that you can hand out. We have a method of how to make the whole thing work. But we know we're ready for a refresh on this program. We know we'd like to actually be checking with the pods that exist. I know when new people move into the neighborhood, CARE and the Welcome Committee will share information about CARES, but we would love to have a more active process to get those folks engaged in pods as well. So Ken, if you want to just wave your hand. Ken Oshlansky's also been helping with this. He was an amazing new pod creator when he came and joined the neighborhood. So he is going to be our point person. But we're really looking for a few folks who say, I want to be a part of helping prepare us for an emergency. And we've got a lot of resources to support you, but we could use some new energy to take it to the next step.
Excellent. Yes, Kimberly, you've done a magnificent job laying the foundation. What's come out of CARES is the bones of how neighbors can help each other in times of a disaster. Yes, absolutely. Also, we know that a lot of neighbors now know neighbors they didn't know, and friendships and neighborly relations have developed, and so everyone looking out for everybody is what we're after. So thank you, Kimberly. And speaking of looking out and looking after, the covenants, conditions, and restrictions are the group of guidelines that create the neighborhood, that keep us all on the same path, that make it look good and just a great place to live in Peacock Gap. That said, they were originally written in 1960, and it's time for an update. And Larry's going to give us a brief overview of how we're seeking to update and modernize the CCNRs so we can move our community into the future. Larry.
Thanks, Mike. For those of you who aren't aware, as Mike said, the CCNRs that the HOA is run under are from 1963, when this whole area was developed. So there are just a ton of things in the current CCNRs which make no sense in today's world, because we've changed a lot. We're now completely developed out, and we've established some things, particularly as you've seen today, with regard to events that we do, with regard to things like CARES, where we're trying to bring people together in groups. We're also involved with the city, as you can see, in terms of areas like Point San Pedro Road Coalition. All of these things are new to what was thought of in 1963. So we need to update the CCNRs. We are in that process. We have drafted updated CCNRs, and you will see that process being rolled out to the community at the beginning of next year. But why are we doing this? So again, we want to keep these CCNRs current. We can't really operate on 1963 CCNRs that were created during the development process of this community. Secondly, we want to continue to protect home values here. And we want to protect those home values by looking at what is going to be strong for the community overall. Because what makes the community strong makes each of us as individual homeowners strong in terms of both who we are here in the community and those home values. Third, we want to make it clear and simple. There are so many things now in the CCNRs that were written in 1963. We want to make those items clear and precise and reflect where we are today. And so we've gone through and we've revised those CCNRs to reflect that. Fourth, the reason we're doing this, we want to listen and involve homeowners to make sure that these updates work for everyone. So as part of the rollout starting next year of the revised CCNRs, we want to get your input as to where we're headed with regard to the HOA. And finally, we obviously want to follow the law. The law's changed over the last 50 years. We want to make sure that we're in alignment where both state and local laws allow us to do things or now forbid us to do things. So we're trying to align those issues up with our proposed CCNRs. And that's why we're doing this. And Mike, next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the timeline for that in 2025.
That's great, Larry. And Jesse's going to take us through the timeline. Just simply said, if you go back a slide, what we're doing by updating the CCNRs is taking a look towards the future. These are mostly minor changes that just reflect the fact, like in 1963, the color palette for the homes in our neighborhood was earth tones. So you could go brown or green or earth tones. It's not like that anymore. Also, the former CCNRs didn't deal with modern problems like ADUs or turning some home into a Airbnb and some of the things we need to insure against and work with. So
Well,
that's
Airbnbs are safer than homeless tent encampment.
let's
for you.
just okay. Thank you. As I
That
said,
doesn't help our property values either.
okay. As I said, what we're going to do is get to questions. Let's, Jesse, if you would take a little walk through the timeline about how we can share the new information with folks and how we move our community forward.
Yeah, so we're about to enter what we're calling the educational phase. And so through that, what we're going to do is the new CCNRs will be on the website. And what we're going to do is we're going to schedule a couple of Zoom share outs, kind of like webinar style things, so that we can actually explain what's changing in the webinars. I mean, excuse me, in the CCNRs in a little bit more detail, as well as open it up for the community to ask very specific questions. So there's sort of an education on what's new, what they look like, and you can go through all of them. And as Mike said, these are not major updates. It makes things more clear, but most of it is going to be quite similar to what it is right now. And then starting on March 31st, because April 1st, we thought everyone would think was a joke. On March 31st, we're going to open the voting. We've actually worked with or hired a vendor that's called eBallot that's going to help us do all of this very first, it's going to be technology forward. Second of all, there'll be a third-party validator for all of the votes. And so everyone will have an opportunity to either vote by mail, which all homes will get, we'll send out ballots so they can vote by mail, or if they want, vote online. We wanted to help make this be a bit more easy for all of our members to participate and let us know if they approve or don't approve the new CCNRs. Each home will be assigned unique credentials, whether that's through the mail or through the online version. And then we will the voting will be completed, and then around May 5th we should be ending our voting, and we will share out the results. So it's going to be a few months of this, so you'll see a lot more communications coming from us, whether that be through the email or in the mail. So keep your eyes peeled for us. And if you haven't already put or paid attention to any emails that come from our organization, now is a really great time to sign up. I'll go to our website and update your contact information so that you're able to get everything that we have and you don't have to only wait for the mail. So thanks so much. And next.
Communication, we have a number of ways that we're trying to do more and more outreach so we can stay in touch with everybody, make sure concerns and anything gets handled or gets heard right away. Kimberly was going to give us a little walkthrough on the ways we can stay in touch.
Yep. Thanks, Mike. Yeah. So really thanks to Jesse, we have a new website. So hopefully you've been able to check that out. It's much easier, I think, to navigate. We've had people actively, know that if you actively send a communication and information or something through the website, actually the entire HOA board, will see that information because we all play different roles and want to be responsive to you. So feel free to communicate with us directly through that. Contact us through the HOA website. That is at pghoa.org, O-R-G. If you go to pghoa.com, you'll see some other Providence Glen neighborhood somewhere else, but pghoa.org. Jesse put the link in the chat, is how you can find us there. We also have a quarterly mailed newsletter. We simplified that this year thanks to CARE Fellows. And so, but we put out, once a quarter, just a little bit of an update of what's coming up, some celebration of things that have happened. And we want to use that as a way for those of our members who are not that active electronically to also stay in touch with what's happening. But from an electronic perspective, also thanks to Jesse, we now actually have an automated way that we can send out information via email, which is really fantastic. And we want to be actively using, we've got, information, we've now got an HOA set up on Nextdoor We have an Instagram, we have Facebook. We're trying to step into communicating with you in all the ways that you might want to communicate with us, and also just to get to know each other and really celebrate being in this community together. So Jesse, do you want to speak a little to what the where our QR code is going to take anyone?
I believe the QR code will take you to our homepage, our website, www.hoa.pghoa.org is probably your best place to start. There's links to just about all of the things that we do. We share out upcoming events. We also grab some of the events from what's happening in the neighborhood as well. So not just things that are being put on by the HOA, but also things that are happening close by, so you don't miss out on all the wonderful activities of the city of San Rafael. So that's a nice way to stay in contact. And then we update it very regularly. So please feel free to bookmark it and follow all of our Facebook handles. I mean, all of our social handles. With those are in their infancy stage. We are just getting those started. But the more you can participate, the more valuable they become. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you on our socials.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jesse. And I know from there, we're going to transition into questions. And so I think what for folks who maybe were speaking before, if you have a question, what we'd love for you to do, if you have it, is to use the hand raise feature. I'm going to stop the share because then we'll be able to see the people better. Within Zoom. Okay. I was going to say,
Yeah.
So I'm going to mute people for the moment. And what we're going to.
I'm sorry. I asked everybody to unmute, and I think I was a little premature with that.
Yeah, that's a little, yeah. We want to not have everybody unmute at one time. That's going to get a little crazy. Zoom only knows how to track one voice at a time. So what we wanted to do was ask if you're able to either use in Zoom, there is under the React button, there is a hand raise feature. If you can see that of a place to raise your hand. If you're not able to do that, you can raise your physical hand. If you're only on a phone and you can't find the hand raise feature, then unmute and just say, I have a question, and we'll try to queue everybody up in the order that the questions come. So if you have a question at this point, either raise your hand or unmute and say, I have a question.
And I think the question about the camping earlier from, I don't think the login here says Pam Herman. So if you'd like to continue that, that's great.
And who's ever on the Lenovo, when you get an echo. Do you have a question? Because if you do, we'd love you to ask the question, and then we can.
Did you say I could ask a question now?
Yes, please.
Okay, my concern is the property values, fire danger, when these tents that have been approved by the city council go in March, I believe it is, when they go in.
And Pam, do you have, because I will say we have done some of our own research to try to find the ordinance that you're referring to. Do you have a link that you could share with us of what you've seen?
I do. I have to look for it.
Yeah, if you would please share with us the direct link of what you've seen, because I will say we have all done some research on this as well, and we've not found the information that you're speaking to.
Well, it's really interesting. Have you talked to anyone at the city council? Because it's the city council that passed it October 3rd.
We have many folks who are active with the city council. Absolutely.
We have two,
of course
one former city council person lives in the neighborhood, Mary Beth Bush.
I know that. I've talked to her.
And I know Kate Collin very well, and all of them have explained to me that although there are rumors to the contrary, that is not what's happening, and there are no formal plans for any sort of encampment. And just from a homeowner standpoint, there are a lot easier places to put up your tent if you're a homeless person than Peacock Park.
Absolutely, but
it looks like, so let's pause for a moment. It looks like CARE has actually copied the ordinance information into the chat itself. So what that says is that it prohibits camping near schools, playgrounds, and public facilities while allowing regulated camping in designated areas.
Right.
And so what we would need to see is any proof that anything near Peacock Park has been as a designated area. We've not seen that anywhere that we can find.
So many tents are designated for Peacock Park, so many designated.
Zero. There are zero
No,
tents.
No, that's not true.
Okay, so without us debating it here, Pam, the ask is if you could help find the link and the information that shows where tents have been designated for Peacock Park.
Where do I send that?
You can go directly to the PGHOA website and contact and email it to us through there. That would be fantastic.
The PGHOA
So-
website.
pghoa.org website. If you could get the link to where that designation has happened and share it with us, that would be very helpful because we have looked and not been able to find that designation. Okay.
Yeah, they don't want it. Well, no.
Yeah, no, we if you could find it for us, that would be really helpful. And then we can figure out what action to take. We just haven't been able to find that information. So thank you so much.
So I send it to PGH.
You can send it to info@pghoa.org.
And to help within
.org. Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
Both her and I put in the link to the actual ordinance page on the city of San Rafael's website, and very explicitly it says that the ordinance aims to protect safety, that it is not allowed, that it prohibits camping near schools, playgrounds, and public facilities. So
Correct.
from what we're seeing on the official content that has been shared, we are unable to find that data that you are sharing. So that's why we're asking for that. And one of the things that does happen that we need to be mindful of sometimes, or there's a misunderstanding that gets perpetuated. So we want to make sure that we're leveraging official communications from.
I have a friend who's been at every single city council meeting.
Fantastic. So if she could get us a link to the official written ordinance with the designation for the camp, that would be super helpful.
They're also going to be put up along the berm.
Okay, Pam, I'm going to have to, Pam, no, I'm
Mike,
sorry. I'm going to
Mike,
have to
I
step
got
in
this
here,
one.
Pam.
Yeah.
There
Okay.
are a lot of rumors going around in the community.
This isn't a rumor.
It is a rumor.
No, it's not.
But
Okay,
Mike, we're not going to be able to resolve it without actual data. So I'm just going to ask us to pause. Pam, I'm going to ask you to please get us a link to the official data, and we're more than happy to work with the data.
Okay.
We
Okay.
could debate back and forth today, but we're not going to get to a resolution. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And thank you for your concern on this topic, Pam. I do want to assure, in addition, I understand your concerns. I'm not dismissing them. But for others on the call and those who are watching later, I have been assured by two different city council people and the mayor of San Rafael to my face that no such encampments have been authorized, anticipated, planned, thought of. So
Okay.
Yeah, so let's
Thank you, Pam.
let's keep digging in. We share your concern. We absolutely share your concern, and we would love to see any more data that would support it. And the person who has their hand raised as administrator, feel free, please, to unmute and tell us.
Hi, it's Nathan Roth. I live on Riviera Drive. So yeah, my wife was forwarded me an email from another person that voiced concerns about this situation, which everybody, I'm sure, in the area is very concerned about. So some person is going through this email thread. City has not taken any action to specifically prohibit camping in Peacock Gap Park. Camping on public property is permitted throughout the city and is regulated by SRMC 19.50. The campsite size and setback requirements are available here. That's what I'm just reading from what was forwarded to me.
Right. No, thank you, Nathan. I mean, the what you just read, though, I will say seems to contradict what we actually see in the ordinance data that was actually shared in the chat. Because the ordinance data specifically said that there's no camping allowed in public places without it being designated.
Well, that makes sense to me. I mean, I certainly none of us want to see it, and that would be horrible for safety and property values here. Certainly,
that's right. That's right. No, I think we all very much agree on that. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we have accurate data, and so we'll continue to dig and see what else is out there that we maybe haven't seen yet.
Okay, I think the main thing, and it sounds like you're being proactive on this, and I think that was everybody in the neighborhood is concerned, just to make sure that we're aware and, don't want to be, caught, behind the eight ball here.
That's right.
Yeah. So
Absolutely. No, that's
that would be
why
great.
to Mike's point, he has directly spoken to the mayor. We have multiple connections with city council members. We are very much on top of trying to make sure that we have accurate data about what's happening. Thank you for
Okay.
bringing
Well,
that up.
yeah, I mean, hopefully it'd be nice to be able to do something for the homeless people, and maybe there's empty buildings or that, I mean, there's a lot of different concerns
We
with
don't
that
have to.
issue.
Yeah, and we as a neighborhood don't actually have to necessarily be directly involved to solve for that. But we want to do our best, as we said, to protect and support our community.
Perfect. That's good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, I'm sure that I appreciate your input on that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate that.
Uh-huh.
Karen.
Well, hello, everyone. I just want to thank the board. You guys have really been working hard, and I have just loved the actual manifestation of your work through all the social things have been incredible. And I want to thank you all and for staying on top of it for those of us who are a little bit more slack. I really appreciate all your hard work and effort. It's sad to me to not see more participants today. I understand people can watch it later. And I know you're doing everything you can to reach out, so I don't know what the answer to that is, but I would love to see more people aware and participating in that. I look forward to reviewing the bylaws in their new form. I have one question about that. And is there any plan or any way to enforce some of the guidelines, some of the rules and regulations of the homeowners association without, getting really mean or putting liens on people's property like that? I know that's been an ongoing conversation for you guys, but I just want to know your current thinking about that.
So, in general, what we have found is simple communication seems to do the trick. And that is very much what we encourage people to do, is just make sure that they're actually speaking to each other, right? And sometimes if there have been conflicts between neighbors, occasionally it has made sense, I think, for a board member to help mediate that, or we actually recommend that they use mediation. But for the most part, what we've found is simple communication pretty much does the trick. And that's very much our focus.
So I'm not really talking about a dispute between neighbors. I'm really talking about oversight by the board in terms of if somebody has parked their car for, more
Right.
than.
Well, what I will tell you is when people have brought that up, we have encouraged people then to go report it to the city, because that is what you can do.
Okay.
Or in the
Yeah.
case of, the city actually has a fantastic site called Fix It. So when we have seen, for example, earlier this year, I live up near Via Montebello, and I go out to the little open space there, and I went out and I saw that the Marin water station had graffiti all over it. And I reported that through the Fix It site. And within 24 hours, the Marin water team had come back out, completely repainted the site, put up a sign, said, "Do not trespass," completely handled it. So when we use the right methods to report that there are issues, I think we have people who are well on top of it to get them resolved. And a part of what we try to do is to help people know how to navigate the city, to know how to, where to report and how to get the support they need.
Okay. That makes sense.
Is there something in particular that you had in mind?
Yeah, I mean, suppose someone's house was completely trashed and the homeowners aren't going to do anything about it. Does the board have any role in that, or is there an expectation that if it bothers you,
So for example, we have had a home up on Burnwood, is that right, Garen?
McNear.
McNear, sorry, McNear, thank you, up on McNear, where It supposedly was under construction for some period of time. Windows were boarded up. You know, when we see that kind of thing or someone reports it, we report it to the city. And then it's up to the city to follow the reinforcements and things
I
that
think we're having a tornado right here at our house.
it's a very, we've got a lot of wind going on. So but in general, that's what I'm saying. Like we collectively are, maybe you've got a sense of this from the presentation today. We collectively are very connected to all the city resources, all the different coalitions and communities, so that we can do our best to help make sure that we're responsive and that they are responsive for us. You know, we didn't speak to it today, but we, for example, have been very active in building strong relationships with the local, you know, Station 55 Fire Department. We mentioned Dariush active on the Police Oversight Committee. Like we're doing our best to be connected to all the resources in the city so that when we need help, we already have the relationships to leverage to get the support we need.
Okay.
Yeah,
thanks.
and that makes a good point, Karen, to your one of your points. Well, in general, our CCNRs align with city code. In
Right.
other words, when if somebody builds a fence to the curb, that's against the CCNRs, but that's just a call to city building department.
Right.
They come out and it's happened to my neighbor. He didn't understand the measuring and they made him move his fence. Specifically to the parking 72 hours rule. That's also a call to parking enforcement. And I have the parking enforcement guy's cell phone, Jim something or other, you know, I have his cell phone number and his response is instantaneous.
That's great.
Some months ago, there was a converted school bus parked down by Glass Beach over there for 2 or 3 days. And I didn't think that was a great idea, nor did some of the neighbors who shared their thoughts with me. I called him and somebody went over there like 2 hours later and the bus was gone. So it's those relationships, because it's not the attitude of our CCNRs or our HOA to, you know, these are the rules and you're going to be in trouble and there's a fine. Because I mean, my attitude has kind of always been, hey, if you have $2 million to buy a house in our neighborhood, you're probably not going to put a Ferris wheel in the front yard. Now, some people don't keep up their place properly. We only have 427 homes. We've got one that's an issue, and we've been working with the city on that. So
Yeah.
there's a line we walk right down the middle between keeping the neighborhoods together and playing police.
Okay, so I think what you're all saying is that there's enough rules that align with the city rules and to be able to have a different sense of authority that's probably more effective than board members acting as policemen.
Plainly put, it's a lot more effective to have somebody from code enforcement go up
Right.
than it is, you know, for me, for
Right.
instance. Because when I knock on the door, hey, Mike, how you doing? I don't really care what you have to say, but come on in, we'll have a chat. So, but by and large, we haven't had any problems. I mean, by and large, we have decent people live in a nice neighborhood who are pretty cool with each other. So, as a board, that's really kind of a great benefit.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks. Appreciate that, Karen.
Okay, any other questions from anyone who's on today? Really appreciate.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The CCNRs expire at the end of 2025. Wondering what your plan is in that regard.
Right. So I'm going to mute for a minute. The echo. We showed you earlier in the slides, maybe you missed that. We showed you earlier in the slides that we are doing a refresh on the CCNRs going into 2025. So we shared a slide with a timeline that we'll be doing education in the January to March timeframe. The end of March is when we're going to be opening voting to update the CCNRs and targeting to have that complete by early May. We will be doing education sessions for people to log in and ask questions, but Larry also went over the guidelines. Like our main focus is to keep it current, keep them current, have it be fair and simple, align with current law, and also frankly protecting the value and safety of our neighborhood. Did you have any other specific questions?
That's not exactly responsive. unless the revisions to the CCNRs include a revision to the expiration date, you still
Yes,
run up
they do as
against
well.
the expiration.
Yes,
So
they do as well. Yeah. The revision to the expiration date, that's correct.
okay, so what would you do if the new CCNRs or your proposed CCNRs? Can you hear me, by the way?
We can.
Okay, the dot here says otherwise. Anyway, if the new CCNRs, proposed CCNRs, are rejected, what will you do about the expiration date at the end of 2025?
So what I can do is we're going to move forward with the current revisions. We're going to do our best to educate and engage the community and hope that we come together with a proposed set that we all can agree to move forward with. And if for some reason that doesn't happen, then we'll be working through what the alternatives are at that time. But frankly, given what we experienced in the past and how much we're trying to simplify and incorporate feedback from the neighbors, we're very optimistic that we're going to be able to move forward with a simpler set that will have, which will also include updating the expiration date.
Are the proposed the CCNRs that you proposed to put before the community substantially different from those that were put before the community in 2018?
That I don't know the question.
I wouldn't say they're substantially different. They're better.
Uh-huh.
I think it's simplified again. So I don't know, Larry, if you want to say something else about that.
Yeah, I think you're going to find that they're pretty much what we proposed in 18, but there have been some revisions based on the feedback that we received at that time, and specifically trying to address some of the issues. I'll give you an example. Flags were an issue, and we have worked to address that. And by the way, the last time we did get more than 65% of all of the respondents positively looking at those CCNRs. We were about 13 votes short in the end out of 427.
Who drafted the proposed revisions?
There's a committee of board members been working on it for about a year, going through, picking through stuff. And they'll be made available by the end of January for everybody to have a look at.
Yeah, so that's part of the process. The education process is going to be for us to have those fully available for people, for us to have education sessions, for people to come and ask questions, make sure that everything is, again, sort of aligned with the direction that we collectively as a community want to see things go forward.
At the moment, are you anticipating actual physical meetings, meeting at a place rather than on a Zoom conference?
At present, we're planning to do it Thursday.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
At present, we're planning to do it through Zoom. Is there some particular reason why you feel like we want to be in person instead?
I'm sorry, I muted you because of the. I'm sorry. We don't. Lenovo, tell us your name so we can talk to you.
Bob David.
I'm sorry.
Bob David.
Oh, okay, Bob.
Okay, Bob.
No, I'm not just saying that I feel a strong need to see you in person, but sometimes I think things can move a little bit more smoothly when you're with people in a room rather than trying to navigate through the technical frustrations of a Zoom conference.
Agreed. And we certainly are expecting some one-on-one outreach as we talk to neighbors on an individual basis. If they, like my neighbors had a concern about flags and we adjusted that sort of thing. So I'm certainly open to having public conversation. And we have done so with some of the Halloween events just in a general way.
So Bob, does that answer your questions?
Yeah. Can I raise a question?
Sure, Cord.
Yeah, this is Cord here from San Marino Drive. So yeah, regarding the CCNRs, to me it sounded that this vote that was done in 2018 was kind of really final. So is the legal basis really there if it's if we are voting again, that they are really kind of enforceable?
So technically, the one in 2018, as Larry said, it fell short by really a handful of votes to have passed. While they were working on them in 2018, the ones that we have in place are still in force through the end of 2025. So we're still operating under the current ones. And that's why we're moving forward with doing the revisions and the voting again in 2025 to get that done by mid-year. So we have plenty of time before the current expiration at the end of next year.
Okay. And do we have a lawyer in the neighborhood who
Yes, we do.
really say that this is all
We've had both.
okay.
We've had both local law support. We've had other law support that we've hired to help with the revisions. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Cord, just a little bit of background. When the original developers put together the CCNRs, they did it as section by section was built out. They're all pretty much the same, but we want to bring them all under one umbrella. So this really is about the continuation of the neighborhood. And I feel there's extremely widespread support for it because the alternative is no cohesion. So we do feel like we're moving the right track. Yes, there was a previous there was a previous attempt to update a few years back, and then we've made some course corrections, and looking forward to making this pretty easy and amenable to everybody.
Good. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. And Karen, did you have something else?
You're muted, Karen.
I know. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I just want to know, what is the percentage of votes that gets the bylaws passed?
And I don't know if
And in other words, is it a simple majority of the homeowners, or is it a certain?
It's a super majority, and I'm hesitant to give out exact details before we're working with the balloting company, a voting company. We're getting outside help on all this stuff.
Oh, great.
Because it affects everybody. So we have two lawyers and a company that does nothing but HOA elections. So as soon as we have all these details hopefully by the end of January, we'll be sending around more notices, updates, and keeping everything fresh on the website.
Now, one other question, are the real estate agents who sell the homes, is there a law or a regulation that they have to hand the new homeowner the set of HOA?
There is indeed. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you all. I mean, that's a daunting task to revise the bylaws. It's not easy.
Well, I'll tell you, there's another Olshansky in the neighborhood. He was a big part of it. So we're happy to have all the Olshanskys around here. They're a nice group. I think that's pretty awesome. Is there any more hands? Are everybody feeling pretty good? I'm also, any of the boards happy to have offline conversations about stuff? I couldn't say for anybody, but I am. If there's any, what we're focused on is having a great neighborhood for another 50 years. That's all.
I have one thing I would love to say. For those of you who see your friends around the neighborhood, and you haven't been to any of the social events, we highly recommend you give it a shot. You don't have to stay the whole time, but we'd love to meet you in person. I think it really does help us build that community, and would love to see everybody showing up at the events. And my personal goal is that we have our whole neighborhood together at least once a year.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And we have done several events over the past few years, and ever since Care, Jesse, and Kimberly sort of took the helm, the events are much cooler. So please do come to the next one. It's a lot of fun, and you'll discover there are great people living here. So that seems to wrap up everything. Is there anything else we can cover for anybody today, or anybody have good jokes, something good of the order, a little bit of news?
Well,
no tornadoes or hurricanes out there. It's all good.
Yeah. We also want to be respectful of your time. So we have more than covered the content we had for today. We so appreciate each one of you showing up and voicing your suggestions, concerns, ideas. Again, feel free to reach out to us. Jesse dropped it in the chat, inquiry@pghoa.org anytime. And have a good Saturday.
There you go.
Stay dry and safe.
Pam, we'll get
There was
this
a rainbow
stuff squared
during
away,
the-
and Cord and
During the
Bob, thank you
session, there
all.
was a good rainbow. So thanks, everybody. And Mike, I think you're probably ready to pause the recording. Mike? Did you want to pause the recording? Yeah. Okay, good. Excellent.
Oops.
Okay, Pam, thanks so much for your participation. We'll look forward for that additional information from you. We have a brief board meeting that we're going to take on now. Is there anything else we can do for you? Or are you ready to sign off with us today?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thanks
thank
again,
you so
Pam.
much.
We'll
Really
get
appreciate it.
this all sorted for you.
Yeah, we are right with you. We have a similar concern. We're doing our best to make sure we have accurate information to work from.
Well,
Thank
my friend has all the legal information because
Great.
he's
If you
really
would-
been on top of it
Great. So
and
if you
gone
would,
to all the meetings. But
Yeah, so if
nobody
you-
wants to talk to him anymore. So
well, if you would please forward it to us, that would be really helpful.
yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good Saturday. All right. And
Hey, friends, I have a
you need to pause the recording, Mike.
Hang on a second.
I, for some reason, can't find to do that.